Sit, Jerry. Sit. This is Jerry, and Jerry is a very big dog, as you can see. He's a Mastiff with Mastiff Lab mix, so he doesn't have the giant head, but he's a big dog, and he likes to jump up, and he really doesn't have much impulse control. So in this video, I'm going to go over some exercises you can do to help your dog develop some self-control. But before I do that, I'm going to show you a hand targeting exercise, which is not really a self-control. He does not always recall for his human, and so this is a nice alternative way of asking the dog to come to you. So I've got a bunch of treats in this hand, and what I'm going to do, sit, is I'm going to flash my hand on his side of his face. I got to go faster. And as soon as he touches his nose to my hand, which has no treat in it, I'm going to move a treat to the hand. I'm going to say target is the command word. All right. I can see that we better get started right away. Sit, sit. Target. Then I often like to switch. So the progression for this is turn, then lean. Well, you didn't get that one. So the idea is we do this away from where the treats are. Sit, sit. So the progression is turn, lean, step, step. So the first one we got to turn. Let's see if we get a lean. There we go, lean. Target. So as soon as he touches his nose to my hand, the treat goes from my other hand to that hand. Step, target. Let's say target each time it goes in his mouth. Next one is steps. And if he doesn't go, pull back and chop closer. Target. 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 Now I'm moving faster than I normally do. Normally what I do is I chop about 1 or 2 inches on the side of his head, then gradually start making it a little bit further and further away, and eventually you should, and this is a really easy one, but eventually you can actually go like this and the dog runs from 15 feet away and puts his nose to your hand. It's an alternative way of calling the dog to you. I call it a target command. You can say any word that you want, touch, target, whatever you want. But when you're doing it, make sure you don't chop with anything in your hand. I chop and I keep my hand like this so I can actually put the treat there. Yes, and he's rambunctious, yes. This is a good illustration of lack of impulse control. So let's work on a little bit of a leave it exercise. So I'm going to show him that I have a bunch of treats in this hand. He's going to try to take them. I prefer not to have him putting his paw on top of my arm, so I'm going to move when that's the case. And I'm not taking it away. I'm holding with a loose hand. The only way he can get the treat is by disengaging. So see how I'm holding my hand in a way where he can't put his paw up on there. So he hasn't disengaged. This is the first stage, this is the easy stage. And Jerry's making it not so easy. I've never had a dog go backwards on me. So what I'm basically saying is challenging the human will never work, but as soon as you surrender, that is paid. That is something that's desirable. All right, so let's do that again. Come over here. Let's have better camera presence. Your dad works in TV. You gotta represent, buddy. There we go. So he's learned that he's not going to get it by going straight to the source. I think that sound might have gotten us a win right there, so we'll do it again. This is just the first stage. You probably shouldn't have to do this stage. That's from your mouth. I didn't have the half-eaten treat in my hand, I promise you. So I have one right here waiting. Don't hold it up like that. That's not ideal. We want him to voluntarily disengage. So that's the first stage. We'll do one more. And this is not ideal to have him actually eating your whole hand. There you go. Next stage, we're actually going to drop it on the ground. Now we're going to start saying the command word, which is leave it. So I have a whole bunch of treats in this hand. One I'm going to drop. He never gets the one that we're dropping on the ground. You ready, buddy? No. No. You want to help me? So I've got one in my other hand. Leave it. And then I pick this one up. He never gets this one on the ground. Luckily his nails are short. And don't move the hand, my left hand. There we go. Leave it. Don't motion with your other hand. We want it, don't cause any accidental. We want to do these things intentionally. Sit. How about if we get a sit? I'll pay for a sit, I promise. Sit. Sit. You're giving great examples of why you need impulse control. Come over here, buddy. This is where a good editor would come in hand. I don't have an editor on staff though. So this is going to be all one long take. Sit. Sit. So I'm mirroring him. I would like to hover it. Now I'm going to wait for eye contact. Leave it. Then I pick this one up. So at first you're going to drop and then cage. Eventually you're going to drop and well, I call it collapse. So I drop and collapse on top of it. Then eventually, I do it on this side, I cage it. Yes. Eventually you want to be able to hover. Let's see if we can get a hover. Sit. 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 See how he looked at that hand? So if he does that, move that hand behind you and always say the word leave it after it goes into his mouth. So at first, again, you're gonna collapse, then cage, then hover, and eventually you should be able to drop it and have your hand back on your hip, and you're elongating the period of time that we're asking him to wait before he gets the treat. And these are all ways for him to practice a little bit of self-control, which these are great illustrations of why he needs to practice. He's a big dog. So, I mean, I don't mind, but other people are gonna mind. And if you have somebody, that comes in for, if you're working on a TV show or whatever it is, and comes in the room, they feel like a pressure because you're the boss. Well, the dog, I have to allow this. Well, no, we don't want our dog to do this. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna show you is how to teach the dog how to respect and stay outside of an invisible line. So I haven't done this with him yet, but we did the leadership exercise. Sit. So this is kind of a version of the leadership exercise that I'm about to show you. So I'm gonna grab some more treats and we're gonna walk on inside and I'm gonna show you how to do this one. Come on with. So basically what I'm going to do is teach him that there's an invisible line right here that he can't cross. So I want to create a bit of an incentive for him to want to go in here. So I have a handful of treats. Now I'm going to wait for him to stop moving. If he's barking, don't ever step backwards while he's barking. I can hiss at him as he's approaching. Once he crosses the threshold, I rush towards him. I hold up my hand and have to hold up your hand. The barking is just like, this is bullshit, man. I want those treats. We're just going to ignore that. But you're going to match him. Just like the leadership exercise, if it stops moving and is not barking, I take one step backwards. Remember, it's only 2 steps, so, and pause. Try not to cross the line. You can go a little bit across, but try not to go too far. Now he's at the line, so I'm going to go further. I'm going to mirror him. Your bark is louder in here with there's an echo button. That's what we're looking for, kind of a half bark. So he's sizing me up and he's testing, am I consistently enforcing it? What if I act like I'm going to bite him? Or I'm going to bump jump him? He's going to go through his whole bag of tricks. Never move backwards when he's moving forward. That's implied as giving up territory for him. And you hear he's breathing heavy. Part of it is because he's moving around. But this is self-restraint, so this is difficult for dogs to do. Step back and I pause. Remember to pause. When you move backwards into your kitchen, keep your hips pointed towards him at first. Eventually you can turn away once he starts sitting and lying down right away. And pause in between each step. Pause. There we go. Now, he was not going to. Sometimes the dog will lay across the line and they're respecting the spirit of the law. That's okay. You saw he was going to start crawling. The treats are a little bit too close here. We want them a little bit further away so it's not too tempting. So I step back and I pause. And it might be 10 times you go forward and back. It might be 100. That's okay. Just keep at it until he sits or lies down. And then you can go about cooking and doing what it is that you're actually wanting to do. But his job is to push the boundaries. Our job is to say, this is where the line is. This is thirsty work. So now sometimes the dog will be like, I didn't want your stupid treats, and go over there and like groom themselves or chew on a bone or whatever. They're just trying to get you to drop your guard. That's kind of what he was doing right there. Yeah, I appreciate it if you don't bite my privates. Anxious. I don't know what to do that's going to get me this treat. So evidently I just need to tuck my shirt in. And see him, but don't make direct eye contact. See him, but don't make direct eye contact with him. Don't ever move backwards unless he's looking at you. We want him to see the move backwards. And again, exercising him before you do this with a 10-minute break will help try this in. Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit. You going to bark over me? So he's confused. That talking might be an opportunity for him to come in. His first time is the hardest. It'll get faster and easier the more you do this. So have some steam in your step when you come forward. But if I started racing towards him and I got to like halfway through the kitchen and he got across the line, I'd stop at that point. I only come to the line if he's still across it. Once he vacates it, I stop wherever I'm at. He's going to try to hump a little bit, so I'm going to make my stance a little bit wider. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just becoming boring. If he goes for your shirt, tuck it in like I just did. I'm not a cowboy. I don't have a big belt buckle, so you're SOL there, buddy. But he's just trying to get a response, and if it works, then he's going to continue doing it. Being a puppy, he's got a lot of beans. Now, unlike the leadership exercise, we're not going to let him go in and get those treats. So I want to just kind of go over a couple things that you can do real quick to make this a little bit easier. I'm going to do this just to keep him occupied. Sit. So don't give him treats for doing it. I'm going to make him do a couple things to earn these to keep him from stop barking. So when we go in the kitchen, we're cooking, we're preoccupied. Sit. Down. And so when our back is turned, down, we're grabbing stuff out of the fridge, he races in. So we need to stop him from crossing the line exactly right as he does it or before he crosses it. Sit. So what I would recommend you do is, like what we do in life, is we do a practice session. So go in the kitchen, microwave a piece of bacon or roast beef or something like that. First establish this line like I showed you, walk backwards away from it, and then microwave your bacon or whatever it is. As soon as he got a lot of chutzpah. As soon as, he tries to come in, you race towards him like I just showed you. Eventually, you can put the bacon here, and then you start doing your prep cooking. Right. You pull your stuff out of the fridge, you bang some pots and pans on, you start the stove, It sure looks like you're cooking. You're in the location you were usually cooking in. It smells like you're cooking. But man, as soon as I cross that line, he's on top of me because we're not actually cooking. So we create a scenario where, like I talked about at the very beginning of the session, where we can kind of create a scenario where we control the elements and he does what we want, he gets a reward. In this case, we just want him to stay out of the kitchen. So once he sits or lies down, I might give him a bully stick or something like that, but eventually we just want him to understand you don't have to get a specific reward, you're just not allowed to go in the kitchen when I'm cooking. The rest of the time you can go and go as you please, but I'm gonna sit here and do this all day long. Now I could do this and achieve what I'm looking to achieve, but it's not gonna be the most exciting footage, so we're gonna wrap this one up right here, but we'll practice a little bit more. All right, sit. This persistent puppy is Jerry, and these are some tips and tricks you can use how to teach your dog the leave it exercise, some hand targeting, the first thing I showed you, as well as how to establish and enforce an invisible boundary. One more time, sit, sit, and that's a wrap.